Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, Van Diesel back into the Card 5 Vanguard deck profile. So if you enjoyed them, like, comment, subscribe, and small shall we? This time we are going over Lianorn, set 6. So, Lianorn is the interesting one, in my opinion. So, Youthberg is a flat-up upgrade, the evolution-wise, or alternate forms. Dradril feels like a flat-up upgrade to me, I'm not so sure. And then Lianorn. Lianorn's the one I'm the most disappointed. Again, just so the point is clear on this, I don't think the new Lianorn is bad. I do not. Again, I say this. It is not bad. My issue with it is, it feels like this is what we should have had with Lianorn from the beginning. The boost skill, the skill it was already had, and the mechanic of the deck, and then also a way just to get rear guards and not lose a hand card. I feel like we should have had that instead of a grade 3 that counts as an alternate persona ride, which in my opinion is kind of like 50-50 for that waste of time, or not waste of time, but you get what I'm trying to say here, hopefully. And then like only a 5k if it gets boosted when you're never going to play it on rear. So like that's what I feel like I should have had. We'll go over the deck. You guys will see my opinion, and we'll get ahead and get started. First up, we have our starter announcing Wind of Spring Corfi. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 6k base, auto when thrown upon, if you on second, draw a card. Cool, standard starter, not special about it, she's just a free draw. The deck doesn't really require a very specific starter. I just like Corfi because, one, the deck is just, I'm trying to do all the ride lines together, obviously, and then two, she is actually one of my favorite Stoicheia stars, if not my favorite, just because of how cute she looks in the background. It looks really cool. Then we have our Overtrigger, Source Dragon Deity of Blessings, Bless Favor, Grade 0 boost, 50k shield, 5k power, Overtrigger, one Overtrigger in your deck, reveals trigger, move that card, draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets +1 melee for the turn, and if you reveal it during your draw tech, activation effect, which is draw a card, choose one of your units, it gets +1 crit, all your framework gets +10, and if your damage zone has cards equal to or more than your opponent's damage zone, choose a card from your damage zone, heal it. So basically, if you draw check this, it's an everything bagel. You get a 1 million, you get a draw, you get another draw, you get +1 critical to someone, you get a front trigger, and then you possibly get a heal trigger. Check and Bless Favor is probably one of the best things you can do in this game. Like, if you see a Bless Favor during the draft check, you haven't won, but it kind of like sets you up for it. It gives you everything you need to win that turn, basically. So, yeah, Bless Favor, if you want to run Obari in its place, because Obari gives more power to the rear guard, so be it, but like, I do think the Everything Bagel is like 10 times better than what Obari can put out in this deck, so, one of. Then we have our regular triggers, 2 copies of Frenzied Harris, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, front ring to his guard circle. If your opponent's vanguards are grade 3 or grade X plus 5k shield. Cool, so 20k guard. You don't need too many front triggers because, to be honest, the rear guards get like enough numbers on their own. They typically swing for like the 30s or 40s if you see a trigger, and the front trigger, granted, would make them even better if you saw a double trigger, but you don't really need them considering you're more focused on putting out the board. Then we have 2 draws to help put out that board. Grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k base, continues guard circle. If your opponent's vanguard to grade 3 gets plus 5k shield. Yeah, standard 10k shield. And I may be wondering, why did I say it's so important to put out the board and yet me, myself, only run 2 draw triggers? This deck can make a board like it's Granblue. I'm not, or like it's Golds. I'm not even joking with you. You can nuke my board, even if I've already committed most of my hand. If I still have hand cards, even if you nuke my board, 95% of that time, I'm going to be able to get just that same board back. Or, well, maybe not the same exact board, but pretty much the same board. So, yeah, the draws, as it's helpful, it is nice to have them, are not required. So if you want to put fronts in this place, you can, but I do like the draws to have just in case. Then we have the 3 crits in Melodia Palmoria, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k base. You have triple drive, why not run crits? Then we have 4 copies of Aspiring Maiden Alana, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base, critical trigger, auto rear at the end of battle boosted. Show up to soul, choose one of your plus 2 for the turn. Cool. So a lot of people are going to argue this is the deck that you want to use this the most in. I'm not going to argue against that, but I am going to say this. You do not need to use this. If you are smart, if you are me, get that there's a distinction between those two, by the way. I'm not smart. I'm just very headstrong, dumb, and yet somehow things work out for me. Persistence. Fuck you, Einstein. That's a inside joke. If I ever get around to explaining it, I will eventually explain it probably. But yeah, I don't think you need to use Elena to win with this deck. She's nice to have for that soul, but she is not needed, but she's a good 4 of. Then we have our 4 copies of Flowery Tone, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k base. In my mind, this thing is called LG Pixie because on tabletop, when I recorded that match against Orphis, when I changed the art for the card, I forgot to change the name, which means that heal trigger was named LG Pixie in that game, even though it had the art of Flowery Tone. So I completely forgot to do that, and in my mind, I find it funny that this thing is LG Pixie in my mind. But whatever, I do like this heal. I don't like the effect heals. We all know why at this point. If you don't know why at this point, is because they're a little bit too situational. Like for the restanding one, it only works on the second attack of that unit, of the same unit by the way, which means if it's the first battle of that unit and it will only get stronger later and the 25k shield isn't going to fucking do anything, then it's kind of like, why do we bother having this when just the 15k shield to block it the first time and waste less hand cards would have probably been better? And that's my argument with them. I don't like them because they're situational. Now, if you want to run them, go ahead. They're perfectly fine to run. I just don't like betting it on that, considering they have 5k less base defense, and in a lot of games I would have lost because of that. So 4 Flower Tone, pick whatever hero you want to run. Then we have 4 copies of our PG Custodial Dragon, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, 6k base, continuous sentinel, 4 summons in the deck, and auto is put on guard circle. Choose one of your units, not plus 1 million, sorry. Choose one of your units, it cannot be attended to battle, and if your hand is 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. So standard PG, not special about it. What that basically means is if this and only one other card's in your hand when you place it on guard circle, you do not have to discard. Cool. If you're noticing, this is a different PG than I ran in the game against Orphis. This is just because this PG was not out when I did that match. I would have had this PG in that deck. I'm pretty sure it works. I mean, their skills are the exact same. My luck with it may be completely different. Who knows? So that might change how the deck performs. But, I mean, I'm pretty sure, like, if we're just going based off of pure skills, it's the same exact PG. So, 4 Custodial Dragon, it's a good PG. You can really run any PG you want because it just allows you to be as aggressive as you want and still have that defensive. Then our grade 1s. Okay, a lot of people are definitely going to argue with me on something in this grade 1 lineup, but we'll figure out, we'll wait to see that. First up, we have Ensembles of Smiles Amelia. I said I would not run her, and I really tried not to run her, except here's the thing. No other grade 1 appealed to me. I literally looked through all the grade 1s, and because this is now where I've been aware that promos, I've been running promos in my deck, and I never knew that because I never fucking pay attention to rarities. Rarities are the least important thing to me in a game, and to other people it might be like one of the most important things, but to me rarity doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter to me on price. Like, I expect it to be a certain price if it's good. So, you know, Amelia, I was gonna replace with the promo, but when I learned that I was running promos that may be hard to get in English, I was like, fuck, now I have to run something just so everyone can get it, and it had to be Amelia. I literally tried so hard, but there's only one other card I would not run for Amelia for, and to be honest, I hate that card more than I hate Amelia. So yeah, let's go ahead and get that started. So grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear when she boosts. If you have another grade 1 or less rear guard, very easy to have in this deck. If you don't, your opponent has nuked your board, all of your grade 1s are out of deck somehow, and somehow the game is still going. I don't understand how at this point, but sure. This unit gets plus 2k ton to battle. And then if you boosted a grade 3 or greater Vanguard, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, draw a card. Okay. This deck does have a little bit of a soul problem if you let it be. Counterblast is not an issue whatsoever. That draw, I used it twice. It actually won me the game. That's all I'm gonna say. It actually won me the game. I say Amelia is bad. In my opinion, she genuinely is because it's costing like a very important resource in the deck, soul, just to get a draw when you have a card that can get you soul and a draw at the same time. But she is a free 10k booster at the very least, not to mention that her skill is optional. So it's that way with her. I think she is good. She doesn't require a hit either. I don't like her particularly, but when it's between this and the other card that I don't run, yeah, I'm gonna run Amelia any day of the week. So 4 of her, you want to see as much of her as possible, or you don't want to see as much of her as possible, but you do want to have as many grade 1s as possible, so that's why we run 4. Then we have 4 copies of arguably the best grade 1 in the deck. I think this should have been the double rare. Fuck Amelia. She should have been the single. She should have just been the rare. This deserves to be the double rare. Marching Debut, Perrette. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, continuous rear guard. During your turn, if you have 3 more grade 1 less rear guards, it gets plus 5. Okay, I have seen this thing in every game. I would typically have a board of 3 of these, or so, on one occasion I had a board of 4 of these. 13k swings, plus Persona Ride. 23, plus the order. The front row is literally just sitting at 28 at this point without triggers. The back row ones are swinging at, what's it called? Oh, wait, no, these are swinging for, oh yeah, no, and the back row ones are sitting for 18. So what, that's like 51k swings without triggers? Yeah, Pierrette is really good. I like her. She's an easy 5k. There's no reason not to run her because she works in the early game rush too. Then we have 4 copies of Lively Rhythm Bayara. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear. When the attack this unit boosted hits a Vanguard, put a grade 2 or less card from your hand to soul, draw a card. Okay, I said I didn't like this card before when she first came out, and I was right. I still don't like her. I mean, I definitely like her more than I like Amelia, but yeah, getting that soul and draw is helpful because it gives you have 2 chances to hit with this. You have the unit it's actually going to boost, the thing in the same column as it, and then you have the Vanguard who force boost with it. So all around, that's a free, like a possible 2 free souls in a draw card, and draw 2 technically, and that's nice. It definitely helps in the games where you have soul problems, and I can definitely tell you the games where I do end up hitting with her, I will never have soul problems. Even if it's just 1 hit, I will never run into soul problems the rest of that game. Some way, somehow, that always like guarantees me I've won the game in the Battle of Seoul. So Biara is really good in that respect. The only reason I don't like her is because, like, she never really shows up when I want her to. Like, either when I already have my board, that's when she'll show up, and it's one of my pet peeves to call over a rear guard unless it's absolutely necessary. Like, if there's no other way to win now and I have to call that rear guard to win, then I'll do it. But if it's not a guarantee, then I won't fucking do it. So she'll either show up then, or she'll show up and when I want her, or like she won't show up when I want her, which sucks, or she'll just end up getting a damage. Or when I talk shit about her like I did the first time, 3 of her will show up in my opening hand to smite me and say, bitch, you better play me on board or else. So yeah, 4 of Biara. She's a nice grade 1. She gets you that soul, she gets you that draw, she adds on hit pressure with the deck. Don't fuck with her because she will screw you back. I learned that the hard way. Then we have 4 copies of hands down the best grade 1 in this deck, and I think any of us can agree. Like, I'm not a Stoicheia main. I mean, I do play a lot of Stoicheia decks, but yeah, I think we can all agree this is like the best Stoicheia card, or at least the best Stoicheia grade 1, and that is Performing Petal Diantha. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, triple rare for a reason. Auto when it's placed on rear from your hand. If you have a Vanguard that's grade 3 or greater, doesn't matter whose fucking name it is. It can be Lianorn, Flagberg, Magnolia. Fuck it. If Seraph Snow was a Stoicheia unit, they could just say Seraph Snow. Counterblast 1, choose a grade 3 card from your drop, call it. So, for the resource this deck cares about the least, on place, pay that cost time just 1 time, and you can call anything from your drop zone that isn't a grade 4. So that's bullshit. That's just good. That's just a good rear guard. And then continues rear during your turn if you have 2 or more back row grade 1 or less rear guards against +5. Okay, so a little bit more restriction than her. I mean, she does require 1 less card, and she does count herself as well, but they have to be in back row. Point is, she's a 13k swing most of the times. So, free call, turns from 1 unit to 2, and is a 13k booster / swinger. 4 of, and you are insane not to do so, my good sir. Then we have 1 copy in the ride deck of our last grade 1 Budding of Pleasant Sounds Gracia, grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when she's rode upon by Brilliant Tune Rakina, you may call this card to rear. And then continues rear guard during battle, she boosted a Vanguard +5. Okay, I originally was going to run her at 4 of when the deck first came out. For the record, like not counting boosters, just when the trial deck first came out, I was tempted to run her at 4. Reasoning for, because my mind, I didn't realize she said boosted the Vanguard. I thought she just says when she boosts, it's +5. I didn't realize it had to be specifically the Vanguards, and then once I realized that, I was like, yeah, no, fuck that. You ain't going to more than just the ride deck. Because if you call her, yeah, cool, that's a free 13k per boost, except that only works for the Vanguard when we have 13k boosters for everyone. So, yeah, nice in the ride deck. She gets you a free rear guard right in the early game, and you don't have to call her to back or rear guard to boost the Vanguard. I mean, you could if you want to, because that's like the best idea, but you can call her to front row to get a rush. So all around, good grade 1. I like her. 1 of in the ride deck. Unfortunately, there's no reason to run her in the main deck because there are literally other cards that do the same thing but better. Then we move on to our grade 2s. 3 copies of Flutter Dragon. Okay, a lot of you are going to be surprised that I'm running grade 2s. Here's why. There's 1 grade 1. That 1 grade 1 was the triple rare. Not this one. The one for Lianorn, the one that specifically specifies Lianorn, that I don't run. And my reasoning for it is I hate that thing with a burning passion. Here's my argument for it. 1, it's a 5k base. I'm not against 5k bases. I literally built a shadow deck based off of Nemain. And when I say based off Nemain, I mean I literally built that shadow deck just to play Nemain. There was no other reason to it. The whole deck was just to play Nemain. And the deck focuses solely on Nemain and 1 other card that benefits off of Nemain's skill more or less. And that's the whole reason that deck even exists in the first place. So I'm not against the 5k base thing. The thing I'm against is the fact that to become a 10k booster, which all of my other units except for Amelia can get bigger numbers with, and Amelia can still hit 10k boosters for free, I have to Soul Blast 1, a resource that is very rare to come by, or not rare, but like, you know my argument, it's scarce in this deck unless I use 1 Byra, to come by. And then I can, yes, get rid of an opponent's unit, but I hate doing that. Like, I fucking hate control decks with my burning passion. Like, I'll be fine with it in the moment. Like, in the moment, I'm fine with playing control decks. But outside of, like, my channel, I don't play control decks unless my friend asks me to, or like my opponents ask me to play a control deck, or unless I really need a win that day. Otherwise, I never play control decks. I hate playing with them. I hate playing against them. It's like so boring not letting the opponent be able to play in my mind, and force getting rid of an opponent's rear guard to me feels like such a dick move. It's like the worst. So I'm not going to run it. And then not to mention the fact that, yeah, if you don't move, it gets +5. But because of how the rulings, from what I saw, work on it, is if they don't have a target that is movable, but they have targets, To my understanding, you don't get that 5k, so you're wasting a Soul Blast. So it's just a 5k booster. I don't like that in a card. Like, if you want to run it, fine. Run it at a 2 of or 3 of, or get rid of Amelia for that, please. But I don't like that. No, or get rid of Flutter for it, but I don't fucking like that. I don't think it's useful. So then we have Flutter Dragon, Grade 2 and stuff, 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear. When it boosts a Vanguard, it gets plus... When your unit boosts a Vanguard, it gets plus 2. Cool. So... my theory of Lianorn went out the window, where I thought Lianorn was going to get like a restand skill, hopefully, but she didn't, which sucks, but whatever. So basically the most this will ever hit is 16, unless you find ways to boost the same unit multiple times in a row with the same card, but however you will do that, good on you. Either way, it's a free 16k. It works in the early game rush. Late game rush is like the thing your opponent worries about the least, because there's Bayara who will keep getting you soul in hand. There's this thing which will slowly be the death of them. There's this thing which will slowly be the death of them. There's this thing which will slowly be the death of them if they let it. And then there's that one grade 1 that if you do run it will also slowly be the death of them. So Flutter Dragon is like the card where they will never target with their right mind unless they're nuking all your board at once. So Flutter Dragon's a good card because technically it has resist, because no one in the right mind needs to target this, because frankly it's the least important thing on your board. So he gets a plus for invisibility, 3 of. Then we have our last grade 2, 1 copy in the right deck of Brilliant Tumor Kina. I used to run at 3 in the main deck because she was just genuinely a good booster, but yeah, after all the grade 1s, I just chose to tech her down to 0. So grade 2 5k shield, 10k base, auto when she's rode upon by any Lianorn, so it can be the trial deck one, it can be the new one. Soul Blast 1, choose a grade 1 less card from your drop, call it to rear guard. Okay, never use this. Never use this. You do not need to use this. Like, if you have all triggers in hand, or like 95% of your hands is trigger, and you have good grade 1s in drop, cool. Do it. Or like you need units to boost with and you have boosters in drop, or you have a way to get a booster in drop because you're going to Soul Blast your starter, cool, do it. But you really never need to do this because like it's a waste of soul in my opinion, and not to mention the fact like you can get plenty of rear guards easily. Like if you're playing against a control deck, then do it, but like otherwise, yeah, hell no. And then use rear guard if you have 3 or more, if your back row has 3 or more rear guards, always going to happen. This unit gets boost. Why is it saying 3 or more back row? There's never going to be you can't get 3 or more back row. Am I forgetting something where, like, there's some bullshit way to get a back row unit? Or is Lianorn going to come up with a system that allows the front row to be the back row? That's the next triple rare. Something acts as a back row circle. Bet right now. There's some way, somehow, next set, they're making a card that allows the front row to become the back row. Just to abuse the fuck out of Lianorn. Bet right now. So 1 of in the ride deck. Get you that rear guard if you really need it, but otherwise, it's like... there's no reason that you need it. I mean, you can still boss yourself, so you can combo back to board with Diantha, but yeah, like I said, no real reason to need it, so 1 of in the right deck. Then on to our last unit, not our last card though, our main grade 3, 3 of in the right deck, 1 of in the main deck of Grand March of Full Bloom Lianorn. Okay, I've made my point clear on this in other deck profiles and here and on the Vanities, that I'm not going to run those trial deck versions. They are not worth it in my opinion. Like Dradroid, I can see it. Lianorn, I can like kind of see it. Youthberg... no, Youthberg is just too slow with that. I mean, well, I won more games with that Youthberg, but you understand my point. In my opinion, it's too slow. It feels like it's not worth it to use the Persona Right thing. And the way I see it is this. If it didn't have that Persona Right skill, be honest. If it didn't have that Persona Right skill, would you run it still? The old Lianorn, or any of the old versions. If it didn't, would you run it? If you say no, then you understand my point. If you say yes, then I really want to hear that argument. Because my issue with it is I'm not going to run a card if I wouldn't run it if it didn't have that really good skill. If it has multiple skills and I run it for one reason only, then I'm not going to run it. But if I like both skills and I would run it for both skills, then I'll run it. But I'm not going to run a card that I wouldn't run if it didn't have that Persona Right skill. So anyways, grade 3 Tundra Persona Right, 13k base, act Van once per turn, counter boss 1, draw a card, choose a card from your hand, call to rear guard or discard it. So you basically get a free draw. Because what it does is you draw. You don't have to pick that card to call. You can pick anything in your hand and call it, meaning you're just getting a free rear guard because you're not losing hand card amounts. And then if you call Diantha from this skill, you can use Diantha to get something else back. So basically, it's a free plus. I mean, granted, you cost 2 counter boss, but in this deck, counter boss means fucking nothing. So yeah, put free plus. And then Auto Van, when this unit attacks into anything, Soul Blast 1, discard 1, and boost this unit with all of your back row stand units with boost. And then if you boosted this unit with 3 or more units, the unit, yeah, see, it says 3 or more. It says 3 or more. I know I read into a Bas McGraw, but I know they're going to give us an arm at some point for like a 3rd arm. So I'm willing to bet right now they're going to make a way to get more than 3 back rows. This unit is supposed to reserve for the battle. At the end of the battle, choose 2 of your back row rear guard, stand them. So Yeah, that's Lianorn's way of getting multi-attack. I'm fucking calling it now. I am calling it right now. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna do it, or they're gonna give us at least a way to do multi-attack with Lianorn. Point is, it's just triple drive, and you're doing like big numbers with Vanguard. So cool, they're only ever gonna PG it or over trigger guard it, and over trigger guard is just like a 1 to pass at that point, I believe, because it's typically you have 3 13k boosters in back row. Typically it's this, so 13k, this 13k, and this 13k. So that's 39 plus 13, that's 52, and over is a 2 to pass. You have triple drive. So yeah, word to the wise for warnings. Typically when I play this deck, my hand card amount is like 3 cards on first grade 3 turn when I do this. Afterwards, my hand cards are really good, so you just have to be willing to be risky with this deck if you choose to do that, for first grade 3 turn at least. So you know, that the Lianorn's fine. It's not a bad card. It's the draw call, it's basically a free call, and the triple drive is fine. I just personally think this should have been the ability of the original Lianorn. And again, I'm not saying it's bad to run the thing for the Persona Right thing, but in my opinion, if I'm going to run a card, it has to be more than just for one reason. And if I have a card that does the exact same thing but better on Van, compared to a card that I would only ever run to get that Persona Right skill and nothing else, why would I run it then? If I'm only going to run it for one thing. That is like the most annoying thing I've ever seen in building decks. It's my worst like pet peeve. It's the worst. So yeah, 4 of Lianorn, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. Persona Rides are easy to come by enough in this deck. Then we have our orders, our final 2 cards. So 2 copies of Tearful Malice, grade 2 normal, order plate by killing 2 rear guards. The way you can revive rear guards and spam out a board with this deck is so easy, because you can just sack 2 rear guards, countercharge, draw a card from its skill, put it to soul, then countercharge once you're getting soul and you're getting your counterboss back. Then what you do, use Lianorn, counterboss 1, draw a card, call the Diantha you know is in your hand because you've been saving it this whole game, use the Diantha skill, counterboss, call a card. So basically, you just got a free soul and a draw. Cool. That's what it is. You just get a free soul and a draw, because you got a rear guard out of it too. So all around, Tearful Malice is nice. I like it a lot. It's a good order. I see it enough in this deck at 2 of. If you're like luck is bad with this, put it at 4 of, but otherwise I see it only needs to be right at 2 of. Then we have 2 copies of Fun Marching. I've used this card less than I have on this Lianorn, and frankly, that's probably the reason why I don't like this Lianorn as much. I mean, I already didn't like it before, but I guess after playing it, I like it less because of that, because I really loved using Fun Marching, and the old Lianorn I used to be able to play it with all the time. So, you know, if I ever choose to pick a Lianorn that I like more, I'm probably going to inherently say the other one just because I used to use Fun Marching a lot more. So Fun Marching, grade 3 normal order, play it by Soul Blasting 1. All of your grade 1 rear guards, or less rear guards, get plus 5k for the turn. So basically, if you have a full board of grade 1s, plus 5 to all of them. And your boosters are typically these things. So which means they're all swinging for 18 boosters. And if you play this deck like I do, this is probably one of the farmer rear guards. And the other one's probably this. So you have a 13k booster. You swap these obviously. So now you have a 15k booster. You have a 18k swinger. You have another 18k booster. You have another 18k booster. You have another 18k booster. And then you have this thing in the farmer, which is like an 18k swinger. All without triggers or Persona Rides. Fun Marching is just a good order. Again, like I said, I've drawn it a lot. I just can't use it in the situations I've been in because of her. But yeah, if I didn't have her and I used the old Lianorn instead, I'd probably use this more consistently. So yeah, 2 of, good order. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I say there's no problem with letting the Persona Ride. Go ahead, do it. I hate doing that it's one of my worst things. If you want to run it, there's no problem with it. But yeah, that's just me personally. I do personally think though that this Lianorn that we have currently should have been the original. It definitely should have. Like, that's a skill that doesn't break the game at all, and if it does, I'd be fucking damned. Because I've played multiple games with this. It has never once broken the game. It's just kept me a hand card afloat. So, yeah. It's just how it is. That's my opinion on it. I'm probably wrong, but that's just how I see it. So anyways, I'm ending here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.